Just ahead of vaccine mandates in New York, hundreds gathered for a protest in Staten Island, where the governor was set to take the stage and give a speech. In fact, there was one specific anti-vaxxer who felt the need to speak about burning down schools over the vaccine mandate. Let's watch.
If they're going to push this on the kids without any type of balance on our end that we're comfortable with, I can guarantee you one thing: town halls and schools will be burned to the ground. In 1776, nobody went to court. Nobody went to court. Everyone grabbed a gun and they shot at each other. And again, I do not condone violence. I hope we don't get there. But just understand that there are plenty of people that are ready to go there.
I love the anti-socialism flag there, as this protest is about vaccine mandates for public municipal workers in New York City. Okay, but the point isn't lost on me. Clearly what they're calling for there is taking up arms against lawmakers over vaccine mandates, over policies that they disagree with. Because in 1776, they didn't have any civil debate or policy making. They just grabbed their guns and they took matters into their own hands. Cenk, those were the good old days.
After he calls for violence over and over and talks about grabbing your guns and doing something, he then says, I don't condone violence. Yeah. Well, really? You got a funny way of showing it. And when you were talking about grabbing your guns, everybody was applauding. And it's not like, look, you walk into a crowd, if you walked into a left-wing crowd and said, hey, let's go grab our guns and start shooting people, people wouldn't applaud. They say, what are you, nuts? Get this guy off the stage, get the megaphone away from him, right? In a right-wing audience, they're like, yes, you saw it with your own eyes. You saw what he said, you saw the reaction. But now, look guys, you see that stuff from time to time and you get a sense from the mainstream media that they're outliers. It's tiny little things, it's not a big deal. That's not remotely true. That's the tip of the iceberg. The numbers, the polling indicates the iceberg.
So there was a new poll done. This is a new poll by Public Religion Research Institute, and they found a pretty devastating trend. In fact, it reinforces previous polls that were done by other organizations that we've shared with you in the past. Now, in this case, you see similar numbers. The poll found that 30% of Republicans agree that violence might be warranted, compared with 17% of independents and 11% of Democrats. Those who buy into the farthest right-wing media outlets are even more likely to contemplate violence. Among those people, 40% agree. Here are other disturbing findings from the poll. The poll also found that 31% believe the 2020 election was stolen from Trump, including 2/3 of Republicans and a whopping 82% of those who trust Fox News more than any other media outlet. Among those who trust far-right outlets like One America News Network and Newsmax, 97% say they believe the election was stolen. And really, the results of this poll reinforces something that I think most of us have known. It's an argument I've made on this show. Oftentimes when we have this debate about is the right wing stupid? It's not about stupid or not stupid. It's about what bubble they exist in. And if they're in this right-wing media bubble where they're being told incessantly that the election was stolen from Donald Trump, of course they're gonna believe that. They exist in that bubble, right? They're literally conditioned and programmed to think that way. And when you genuinely think that democracy has been ripped away from you, that the election was stolen from your preferred candidate, well, of course you're gonna wanna take action. And unfortunately, when it comes to the right wing and their obsession with violence and guns, they're gonna take matters that just happen to be more violent. That's what's terrifying about this whole scenario.
Yeah, so I can't help but use some derogatory terms from time to time. As if you watch, you'll definitely know. But Anna's right. It's less about being less intelligent or insane. They're literally being brainwashed into believing things that are not true. Climate change isn't true. 99% of the scientists are wrong. The vaccine isn't effective. 99% of the world's scientists are wrong. And oh, Joe Biden didn't win the election. 99% of journalists are wrong. No, we're the right ones. And we're telling you right now, ignore the scientists, ignore the teachers and the professors and the journalists, ignore anyone with facts and just listen to us. And it totally and utterly worked. Now we've got basically a family member or several family members who are in a cult in this country. And you know, if you've ever had a family member in a cult, I'm lucky I have not. But from what I see, hear, and read, it is incredibly difficult to get them out. And so 97% of Newsmax and OAN supporters think that the election was genuinely stolen. If I thought the election was, and I've said this before many times, if I thought the election was actually stolen by Trump, which is not, he tried to steal it, right? If I thought that worked, I wouldn't resort to violence and I wouldn't tell anybody to resort to violence, but I would fight by every other means. And I would fight with my dying breath to return to democracy. And so that brainwashing has had a massive impact. And in fact, we have one more set of facts for you guys from this poll that I would argue is even more devastating.
About QAnon, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's get to those results. 1 in 5 Americans believe in the core, oh my God. 1 in 5 Americans believe in the core tenet of the QAnon conspiracy that there is a storm coming soon. While 1 in 6 believe that the United States government is controlled by a group of Satan-worshiping pedophiles who run a global child sex trafficking ring. The same share, 18%, say they agree with the statement that America has gotten so far off track that true American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country.
Guys, forget the first stat about 1 in 5 think there's a storm coming soon. I don't know what that means. That could mean a lot of different things. But 1 in 6 Americans said, 1 in 6 said yes, the Democrats are Satanists, literal Satanists. They're in a satanic cult and they're sexually abusing children. And by the way, part of that conspiracy is drinking the blood of children. 1 in 6 Americans, nearly a third of the Republican Party. This country is in massive trouble. Like the people in media, as usual, they're in the Capitol, also in politics. They're rearranging the chairs on the Titanic when the country is bubbling up towards violence and hatred, and there's a giant clash coming. And now progressives have lost in Congress completely, it appears today. So they're gonna be super mad. And now you got the right wing that's already saying, let's go grab our guns. 30% of them say resort to violence in the earlier portion of the poll. And a gigantic percentage of them believe that we on the left are controlled by Satan. So look, for me as a rational person, that sounds like someone who's insane and should seek mental health counseling. Like literally, very, very, very literally, right? Okay, you say that's not productive, and the most accurate thing is that they have been brainwashed. But look, guys, who brainwashed them? It wasn't just Fox News and OAN and Newsmax. Republicans have been saying forever that Democrats are child killers, baby killers, right? That was abortion. I write about that in my book, justicecomingbook.com, okay? They've been saying it for decades and Democrats never fought back. The media never clarified, no, Democrats don't kill babies. And they've told a lot of parts of fundamentalist Christianity said the other religions were Satanists. And so now another part of the poll, last one, 2/3 of Republicans say that being a Christian is an important part of being an American. So if you're not a Christian, you're not as American. By the way, Judeo-Christian, out the window. They didn't say anything about Jews. In fact, as we showed you earlier,
they don't care about Jews. Are you kidding me? They hate Jewish people.
Of course, the core of the QAnon conspiracy about drinking the blood of children is blood libel that has been used against Jews for centuries, if not millennia. It's the oldest anti-Semitic trope. Who do you think they're referring to? Why do you think they're attacking synagogues? This country's about to blow up. So I hope to God I'm wrong, and this is all just political rhetoric, and they're just doing free speech. If that's the case, a couple of years from now, we'll be like, oh my God, I was totally wrong. The right wing never did the violence, thank God. Oh, that's wonderful, right? But that's not what's gonna happen. They're whistling past the graveyard here. This we're gonna hit that iceberg super hard. My guess is, based on all the polling and all the things you see in the streets, massive right-wing violence is headed in our direction. It's straight ahead, and we're living in a fantasy world where we think, no, they won't really do it. Yes, they will. Did you see January 6th? Did you see the guy who showed up with a truck bomb in the Capitol? And then today, Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert are joking around about blowing up the Capitol. A guy with a truck bomb drove up to the Capitol to blow it up, and they're still joking about it. They're gonna do it. So I hope to God I'm wrong. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.